today we are going to be subtracting integers. And so we're going to start with a simple one, 4 minus 7. To represent the 4, I'm going to start with 4 yellow counters. And remember, we've worked with these red and yellow counters for a few days now. The yellow side represents a positive 1. The red side of the counter represents a negative 1. So this is a positive 4, which is the first integer in my subtraction problem. And I want to take away 7. But the problem is I only have 4 positive yellows to take away. So that I can add more chips to my board, I'm going to add 3 0 pairs. And the reason why I'm going to add 3 0 pairs is because this represents plus 1. The red represents minus 1. So plus 1 minus 1 means I haven't added any value to the chips on my board, but now I have more chips to work with. And so I need to add 3 0 pairs so that I end up with 7 yellows that I can take away. So now I still have a positive 4 represented because these are each 0 pairs and don't change the value of what's on my board. But now I do have 7 yellows to take away. So I take away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what's left is negative 3. And so my answer to 4 minus 7 is negative 3. And I'm going to try the same thing on a number line as well. So if I make my number line like this, and I start at 0, and I represent a positive 4 on the number line first. So I draw an arrow to the right to positive 4 to represent the positive 4, the first integer. And I want to take away 7. So anytime I subtract, I move to the left. So I'm going to subtract 7. And if I move 7 space to the left, I end up right at negative 3. So it works with a number line as well. The rule for subtracting integers is to add the opposite. So instead of subtracting, I'm going to change this to an addition sign. And then instead of a positive 7, I'm going to change it to a negative 7. So now I have 4 plus negative 7. And if you remember our pictures of number lines with adding integers, this is the same picture that we drew for 4 plus negative 7. And it ended up at negative 3. So 4 minus 7 is the same thing as 4 plus negative 7, and that equals negative 3. Let's try another one. So now I have negative 3 minus 9. So first let's do our counters. I'm going to start with 3 reds for negative 3. And I want to take away 9 positives, but I don't have any positives to take away this time. So I have to actually add 9 0 pairs. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, oh my goodness, one more, 9. And now I have 9 yellows that I can take away. So I'm going to take away the 9 yellows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And let's organize what we have left. That's 5, 7, 8, 10, 12 reds. So my solution, according to my red counters, is negative 12. Let's use our pattern rule that we found and try that. So I start with negative 3. I'm going to leave that first integer alone. Instead of subtracting, I'm going to change this to an addition sign. And I'm going to add the opposite. The opposite of 9 is negative 9. So negative 3 plus negative 9 is actually negative 12. So it works. Let's try another one. This one is negative 5 minus negative 4. So let's start with 5 red counters. to represent -5. Minus means take away, -4. So I want to take away 4 red counters to represent taking away -4. So -1, 2, 3, 4. This time I actually had 4 red that I could take away. And my solution, according to my counters, would be -1. So let's try our pattern. Instead of subtracting, I'm going to add. Remember, I leave this first number alone. It's going to stay -5. I'm going to add instead of subtract, and I'm going to add the opposite of the second number. The opposite of -4 is +4. So -5 plus 4 is -1. It works. And I like to say bam, bam whenever I have 2 negative signs right next to each other because they both turn into a positive. So bam, bam, -5 plus 4 is -1. -5 minus -4 is the same thing as -5 plus 4. Last one. So this time let's use our rule. I'm going to subtract -2. So instead of subtracting -2, that's the same thing as adding a +2. So my rule is going to be to add the opposite. So instead of subtracting, I'm going to add. Bam, bam, because I want to add the opposite of -2. 6 plus 2 is 8. So 6 minus -2 is the same thing as 6 plus 2, which is 8. All right, lastly, we want to look at our foldable for our operations with integers entry into our notebook. We've already filled out the plus, the rules for adding, so now we want to fill out the rule for subtracting. There's only one rule for subtracting, so all the way across the subtracting flap, you can write add the opposite. And remember, when there's 2 negative signs right next to each other, bam, bam, they turn into plus. That's it.